If I hadn't come home early that Thursday, maybe I'd still be living a lie, blissfully unaware that the woman I vowed to love forever was tangled in bed with the last man I ever expected. But fate has a cruel way of peeling the mask from those closest to you. And once I saw what I saw, there was no going back. That was the moment something in me snapped. Not with rage, but with clarity. You never think it's going to happen to you. Cheating, betrayal, the cliché of walking in on something you shouldn't see. It's always a story for someone else. Until it isn't. That Thursday started like any other. Morning coffee with Leah, my wife of 8 years. She wore that silky blue robe I bought her on our honeymoon in Santorini. Her kiss tasted of toothpaste and routine. She smiled, but her eyes were tired. I asked if she slept well. She nodded. Lied. Work was dull. Meetings dragged. Emails piled up. But something in my gut kept gnawing at me. I told my boss I wasn't feeling great and headed home early, hoping to surprise Leah with lunch. That irony doesn't escape me now. I pulled into the driveway, noting another car I vaguely recognized. Maybe a neighbor's? No. Clicked the second I opened the door and heard the laugh, his laugh. Greg, my sister Hannah's husband. The laugh came from upstairs. Light, familiar, sickening. I didn't rush. I walked, every step heavier than the last. Our bedroom door wasn't even fully shut. I pushed it open and saw them. Her legs wrapped around him like he was something she'd missed for years. The silence when they noticed me was louder than any scream. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even move. I just stood there, memorizing the betrayal etched in every part of their nakedness. Leah's mouth moved, probably to say my name. Greg grabbed his jeans. I turned and left. I drove for 2 hours without knowing where I was going. My thoughts flickered between scenes. Our wedding, Christmas dinners, my sister's kids calling Greg Dad. The way Leah had always defended him, called him harmless. I laughed, then screamed. I ended up at a gas station on the edge of town, bought a black coffee and stood outside the car, the cup steaming in my shaking hands. Then I called Hannah. She answered on the second ring. Hey Ethan, what's up? Are you alone? I asked. Yeah, kids are at school. Why? You okay? No. My voice cracked for the first time. Can I come over? She didn't ask anything else. Hannah met me at the door, her face creased with worry. I walked in, sat on her couch, and for the next 10 minutes said nothing. Then I told her. Everything. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just stared at me with wide, broken eyes. Greg? She asked finally. I nodded. That bastard. She stood up and began pacing. How long? I don't know, but long enough. Silence stretched. Then she said the words I wasn't expecting. We're going to ruin them. I looked at her, unsure. We're not victims, Ethan. Not anymore. You and I, we're going to make them pay. And in that moment, I saw something in my sister I hadn't seen since we were kids. Steel beneath the sadness. Over the next few hours, we laid out everything. Leah's patterns. Greg's frequent business trips. We pieced together clues we'd both ignored. She poured us whiskey and lit a cigarette, something she hadn't done in years. Her hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. Revenge isn't about screaming in their faces. It's about taking away what they care about most. Quietly, permanently. I asked her what that meant. She smiled, and for the first time that day, so did I. That night, I returned home. Leah was there, crying, begging for forgiveness. I said nothing, just packed a bag and walked out. Before I left, I looked her in the eyes and said, "You're going to regret this more than you ever thought possible." And I meant it. If revenge were a fire, then that Thursday was the match. But this was the spark. The moment we stopped being victims and started becoming something else entirely. Something sharper, something colder. I spent the night at Hannah's. Slept on the couch, though I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Her face twisted in pleasure. His hands on her hips. Our bed. Hannah must have slept even less. She was in the kitchen when I woke, sitting at the table, laptop open, a yellow legal pad filled with notes. "You're up," she said, not looking at me. What are you doing? She flipped the pad around. Making a plan. We started simple. Information was power, and we needed all of it. Hannah already suspected Greg of lying about money. He always seemed to have just enough to afford his toys, new golf clubs, weekends at the lake. But somehow there were always budget issues when it came to their kids' school fees or fixing the damn leaking pipe in the bathroom. He's hiding something, she said, pulling up her bank app. I never see all his deposits, and he has a second credit card I'm not on. Think Leah knows? Maybe. Or maybe she just doesn't care. Your wife always did like shiny things more than real ones. That stung. But she wasn't wrong. We made a list. Every place we thought they might have gone together. Hotels, restaurants, Airbnb receipts. We cross-referenced dates when Hannah said Greg was away, and when Leah claimed she was visiting her cousin. Patterns formed like bruises under skin. Undeniable. We weren't just suspicious anymore. We had proof. The next step was surveillance. Felt dirty. Felt necessary. I had a friend, Jason, from college. He owed me big for something I helped bury years ago. Let's just say it involved a stolen car, a fake ID, and a very forgiving police officer. He was in tech now. Worked freelance in digital security, which really meant hacking and surveillance gear. I met him at a bar downtown. You look like shit, he said, sliding a whiskey toward me. Feel worse. When I told him what happened, he didn't ask questions. Just nodded and said, what do you need? Something to track a phone. Maybe plant a mic. I want to know where they are, who they're with, and what they say when they think no one's listening. He grinned like I just asked him to rob a bank. Easy. He gave me a phone with a GPS tracking app, a mini voice recorder disguised as a car key, and spyware for Leah's laptop if I could get to it. Hannah watched me as I laid it all out on her kitchen table. We're really doing this, she said. I nodded. We already started. That weekend, Leah texted me. Leah, I'm sorry. Please can we talk? I made a mistake. One night. It didn't mean anything. I didn't respond. It was a lie. I knew it. She knew it. She just hadn't realized how much I knew. Instead, I waited until she was out, then used my old key to slip into the house and install the spyware. Her laptop was open on the table, unlocked. I clicked fast, copied her emails, files, and saved chats. Two things stood out. A Gmail thread with Gregory D. Going back months. Love notes, nudes, plans to leave us. A recent email from a divorce lawyer. Attached is a draft of the settlement offer. So she'd been planning to leave me, probably to go play happy family with Greg. Maybe split the kids, the house, the dog, and the money. Too bad I got to the lawyer before she did. Hannah and I had a rule. Never act on emotion. Always gather. Always prepare. But some nights, the rage bled through. Like the night Hannah found Greg's burner phone hidden in his car. He left it in the glove box, probably forgot it was there. It wasn't locked. He was arrogant like that. We went through it together. Photos, videos, sexts. Leah in lingerie I bought her. Greg talking about how stupid Ethan would never see it coming. That's when I punched the wall hard enough to fracture my knuckle. Hannah didn't flinch. She just said, good. Let them laugh now. We're going to burn their world down. We made 3 rules. Use their own lies against them. Not fabricate. Expose. 3. Don't stop until they're alone. Broke. Hated. Forgotten. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. Justice. Truth. That week, we made progress. Jason helped clone Greg's financial history. Turns out he'd been skimming money from Hannah's family trust for over 2 years. He thought she'd never notice because he handled most of the paperwork. But she had backups. And now she had receipts. Meanwhile, I printed every email Leah had written to Greg. She confessed to hating my family, mocked me, called me pathetic for not noticing. The woman I loved didn't just betray me. She despised me. And yet, when she called again, her voice was syrupy sweet. Please, Ethan, let's just talk. I miss you. I told her I needed time. Let her believe I was heartbroken. Weak. Let her believe I still loved her. Because that's how we'd win. By the end of the week, we had everything we needed to ruin them. Proof of the affair. Financial crimes. A timeline of deception. Digital files. Audio clips. And the big one, video. Jason had installed a hidden camera in Hannah's guest room when she lured Greg there, pretending she wanted to talk about their marriage. He thought he was safe. Thought he could lie to her face while texting Leah under the table. We caught it all. That footage would destroy them. But we weren't ready to go public. Not yet. We had one more thing to do. Take away their power. Strip them of leverage. And to do that, we had to hit first. Revenge isn't one grand gesture. It's a quiet war fought in shadows. And the first blow? That's the one they never see coming. Monday morning came like a storm held just off the coast. Tension thick in the air, silence humming with purpose. Hannah and I sat across from each other in her living room, sipping bitter coffee, the video of Greg's lies looping silently on her tablet between us. We didn't need to say anything. We were past words. Today was strike one. Phase 1, financial exposure. Greg had been embezzling money from Hannah's late grandfather's trust, a fund meant for her kids' education and future. She'd never questioned the statements, never had a reason to. Greg handled it, smiling like the good husband at PTA meetings and family barbecues. Until now. I handed her the USB drive Jason gave me. It held everything: bank transfers, dummy accounts, fake investment expenses. Over $93,000, siphoned in less than 2 years. Hannah didn't cry. She emailed it to her lawyer. Then she called the bank and froze all joint accounts. By 10:45 a.m., Greg's cards were declined at the gas station, then again at his office parking garage. He called her, of course. Hannah put him on speaker. "Honey, something's wrong with the bank. I think there's a mistake." "No mistake," she said flatly. "I know." Silence. "What are you talking about?" "The money, Greg. The transfers. The accounts under your cousin's name. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know." Greg stammered. He wasn't good under pressure. That was always his weakness. Arrogance in the spotlight, panic in the dark. I was going to tell you." Click. She hung up. Phase 2, legal disarmament. While Hannah was gutting his financial lifeline, I went to meet Leah's divorce attorney. Yes, her attorney. The one she'd secretly hired. I didn't go in blind. I had a strategy. And leverage. He was a clean-cut man named Feldman, very polished, very careful. I walked into his office, uninvited, and calmly handed him a folder labeled Conflict of Interest. Inside were 2 things: screenshots of Leah and Greg's emails, including one where she asked, "Do you think Feldman will let me hide the condo in my name?" A notarized statement from me claiming misconduct and concealment. "I believe this meets the threshold for a bar complaint," I said. Feldman flipped through the pages, face paling by the second. He didn't argue. He just sighed and said, "I assume you'd like me to recuse myself immediately, and I want a signed declaration that you shared none of my financials with her. If you did, I'll sue for breach of client confidentiality." 10 minutes later, I walked out with the signed paper in hand. Leah had lost her lawyer. Phase 3, professional undermining. Greg worked in corporate insurance. Clean suits, big clients, lots of small talk and Excel. His firm had strict ethics policies and very strict rules about client appropriations. Remember the video? The one where he admitted to repurposing client funds to cover some gaps in their home mortgage? We sent it anonymously to his company's compliance department. By 4 p.m. that day, Greg was suspended, pending internal investigation. No money, no job, no access. He had no idea yet that the worst was still coming. That night, Leah called again. Her voice trembled. "Ethan, why is Feldman not returning my calls? Did you do something?" I played dumb. No idea. Maybe he's busy. Or maybe he realized who he was dealing with. Pause. I could almost hear her swallowing her pride. "I just think we should talk. You left so suddenly. You cheated with my sister's husband." "I didn't leave. I escaped." "I miss you," she whispered. We can fix this. That made me laugh. You miss the house, the stability, the image. You don't miss me. I hung up before she could respond. And I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, because I was finally at peace. The fallout begins. By the end of the week, everything had begun to unravel. Leah showed up at my sister's house while I was there. She was crying, makeup streaked, wearing a coat over what looked like pajamas. I just want to talk to him, she pleaded. Hannah stepped outside first. You should go home, she said coldly. Leah looked at her like she couldn't believe the betrayal. You're my sister-in-law. You're sleeping with my husband. Leah flinched. It was a mistake. Do you know how many times Greg's lied to me? Hannah said, stepping forward. How many times I've believed him because I thought he would never do that to me. You think you're special? You're not. You're just the latest. That shut Leah up. She turned to me. Ethan, please. We don't have to be like this. We can still fix it. I stepped out behind Hannah, crossed my arms. We're way past fixing. You don't get to play victim. Not anymore. She stood there, shaking, before finally turning and walking to her car. She didn't even notice the eviction notice I had taped to the front door. Phase 4. Isolation. We needed to make sure they had no safe harbor, no allies. So we started leaking. Emails to Leah's family, carefully redacted copies of her affair messages with Greg, screenshots of their jokes about family gatherings. To Greg's boss, the tax inconsistencies Jason dug up. To Leah's best friend, Megan. The audio clip of Leah calling her a mooch who drinks all my wine and never leaves. It was surgical, precise. No one knew it was us. Not yet. But one by one, their safety nets vanished. By Friday, Greg was crashing at a motel. Leah was couch hopping between friends, none of whom returned her calls after Megan saw the messages. Their lives weren't destroyed. Not yet. But they were cracked. And once something cracks, it only takes pressure to break. Revenge isn't just about the damage you cause. It's about what you make them see in themselves. Their reflection warped and stripped of excuses. That's when it starts to break them. Not when you scream at them, but when you leave them alone with what they really are. They were unraveling. You could smell it on them. Greg stopped shaving. Leah started calling me from different numbers, always late at night. Always with that same brittle voice. Like if she just said the right words, I'd crack open and forgive her. But I didn't want her apology. I wanted her to understand. Leah's spiral. On Tuesday morning, Hannah and I had breakfast at the diner down by the old train tracks. Her lawyer had called. Greg had attempted to file an emergency injunction against the account freezes. It was denied within the hour. He's bleeding money, Hannah said, stirring her tea. 3 credit cards maxed. His car payment bounced. I pulled out my phone and showed her the text Leah sent me that morning. Leah, 4:07 a.m. I can't sleep. Are you okay? Are we okay? Please answer me. Desperate, Hannah muttered, scanning it. It's starting. It was the guilt phase, the rationalization phase, the if I just cry enough, maybe I can undo what I did phase. That night, I got another text. Leah, 11:52 p.m. Do you remember our first anniversary? The lake house? We laughed so much. You said it was the happiest day of your life. She was digging through memories like a thief searching for keys to a locked house. But those keys didn't work anymore. Greg's fall. Jason sent us a photo the next day. Greg, sitting in his car in a grocery parking lot, drinking beer out of a paper bag. Alone. Hair unkempt. Shirt wrinkled. We weren't following him exactly, just keeping tabs. Watching from the outside as the world stopped returning his calls. His boss emailed Hannah. While we're investigating internally, I'd like to commend you for bringing this to our attention before it became a legal matter. Your discretion has not gone unnoticed. Hannah smirked as she read it. They're going to bury him. He deserves worse, I said. And he did. Because Greg hadn't just betrayed his wife. He'd made her feel invisible. Like her love, her trust, her years meant nothing. Now it was his turn to feel small. Psychological seeds. Phase 4 was underway. The part where we stopped attacking them from the outside and started getting inside their heads. We left breadcrumbs. Just enough to make them question everything. Leah's anonymous letters started showing up in her mailbox. Typed, clean, cold. Lines like, "You threw away diamonds for broken glass. He's watching, and he knows more than you think. The world doesn't forget. It just waits." She called me in tears. "Did you write this?" I stayed silent for a few seconds, then said, "No," and hung up. She'd never believe me again, and that was the point. She'd never trust anyone again, not even herself. Greg's torment was more interactive. Jason spoofed a series of emails to him from a fictional client named Rachel Halden. She posed as someone who knew about the offshore transfers and threatened legal action if he didn't respond. Greg fell for it completely. He emailed back, "Please, let's talk. I can explain. It wasn't what it looks like." We waited 48 hours, then sent him a reply. No explanations. The reckoning comes alone. We let the silence chew on him after that. It drove him mad. Public pressure. We decided it was time to widen the damage. We uploaded the first blurred version of the affair footage to a burner Instagram page called @Suburban Secrets Uncovered. Faces pixelated, voices altered, but the context unmistakable. The page's bio read, "Truth lives here. You decide who they are." It went viral in under a day. Hannah leaked it to her PDA group anonymously. Leah's mom squad was in flames. The group chat was exposed. Screenshots of Leah mocking other moms, calling one a Botoxed cow and another barely literate. And Greg? We released a redacted version of his drunken motel ramble, audio only, where he screamed about losing everything because of some stuck-up witch and her control-freak brother. By Friday, the whispers had turned into roars. The party trap. That weekend, we invited them both to my birthday party. Hannah mailed formal invitations to all our mutual friends. Classy design, gold foil, black tie. The catch? Neither Leah nor Greg were technically uninvited. And everyone else knew what they had done. They showed up anyway, separately. Leah wore a wine-colored dress and looked like a ghost. Greg came late, already halfway to drunk. People were polite, but the tension in the room was suffocating. Whispers, stares, cold shoulders. I stood at the center of it all, drink in hand, smile fixed, calm. Leah came up to me. "Why are you doing this?" I leaned in and said, This is restraint." Greg lasted 20 minutes before he left in a rage. Leah stayed longer. Out of pride. Or denial. I didn't care. She left alone. We never touched them that night. We just let them see how many people had stopped seeing them as people at all. The break. Sunday morning I got a voicemail. It was Greg. His voice was shaky, slurred. "You think you've won. You think this makes you better. But it doesn't. You're just as broken as me. As her. We're all liars. Just admit it. Admit you enjoyed this." I didn't respond. Because he was right about one thing. I did enjoy it. Not because of the suffering. Because of the clarity. For the first time in years I could breathe. There's a silence that comes after the storm. Not peace, but the stillness of devastation. The quiet moment when the liars see themselves in the shards of the mirror they broke. And realize, no one is coming to help them put it back together. It had been 3 weeks since I caught Leah and Greg. 3 weeks since I became someone else. Not a different person, just someone more honest. Someone who stopped pretending everything was fine. That version of me, the husband, the nice guy, the blind fool, was dead. This new man? He was watching them drown. And he wasn't throwing a rope. Final phase. Full exposure. We'd taken their comfort. Their stability. Their reputations. Now we were taking away their control. Our plan had always been to let them crumble from within. But after the party we realized something. They hadn't fully broken yet. Not completely. Greg still had contacts in his old firm. Still thought he could lie his way into another job. Leah was floating between friends' couches, flirting with sympathy, telling half-truths to mutual friends, claiming I had cheated first, that she was lost, confused, misunderstood. She was still trying to manage her downfall, and we couldn't let that happen. Greg's collapse. Jason came through again. He'd managed to pull encrypted files off Greg's cloud backup, years of shady spreadsheets, falsified reports, and a hidden portfolio of stock investments under his cousin's name. Hannah handed it all to a forensic accountant, then to the IRS, and finally to his employer. Within days, Greg was formally terminated with cause. And worse, he was now the subject of a full-scale audit and potential criminal investigation. He tried calling Hannah. She ignored him. Then he called me. The voicemail was longer this time, slurred, angry, then suddenly calm. I hope you're proud. You and your sister. You think this is justice, but it's just cruelty in a suit. You broke me. You broke her. He didn't realize we didn't break him. We just stopped protecting him from himself. Leah's undoing. She tried to play the victim card one more time. One of her friends, Jenna, reached out to me. She said she was depressed, that you manipulated her, that Greg coerced her into everything. I said nothing for a moment. Then I asked, would you like to see the emails? I forwarded her 20 threads of Leah mocking me, bragging about the thrill, joking about how Ethan has no clue. I included a few of Greg's too, just for contrast. Jenna didn't respond, but 2 hours later, Leah's Facebook page disappeared. Her Instagram went private. Her group chats? Silent. Even her own mother, her mother, texted me, I'm sorry, Ethan. I don't know what's gotten into her. We raised her better than this. That was the moment I realized something. We didn't just take Leah's mask off. We made sure she couldn't ever wear it again. What revenge looks like. I used to think revenge would feel like fire, hot, violent, burning. But now I knew better. It was ice, cold, sharp, clean, and slow. It seeps into them until they start freezing from the inside. Until the warmth of their lies turns to frostbite. The turning point. It was Hannah who brought it up one evening. We were sitting on her porch. The kids were with their grandparents. The air smelled like lilacs and smoke from some neighbor's barbecue. We did it, she said softly. I nodded. Yeah. She sipped her wine, then added, so what now? I didn't answer right away. What was next? Leah was living in a one-bedroom sublet on the edge of town. Greg was unemployed, under investigation, and down to his last $1,000. They had lost everything. But so had we. Not our homes, not our families, but our innocence. The illusion that love makes people better. That vows mean anything when convenience calls louder than commitment. And that kind of loss? It lingers. Unexpected letter. A few days later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in blue ink. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Leah's handwriting. It read, I deserve this. All of it. But I still love you. And I hate myself for ruining the only good thing I ever had. No excuses. No begging. Just those 3 lines. I read it twice. Then I burned it in the kitchen sink. The final blow. We had one last card to play. Something we'd been holding for the right moment. The full, unblurred video. Jason had offered to release it online. But we didn't want viral revenge porn. We wanted precision. So we sent it privately to 4 people. Leah's boss. Greg's last client. Hannah's divorce attorney. Greg's father. No context. Just a link and a password. By the end of the week, Leah was asked not to return to her job, while personal matters are addressed. Greg's father left him a voicemail. Hannah let me hear it. You are not the man I raised. You are not welcome in my house. Ever again. And the client? He sent an email with 4 words. Your contract is terminated. That was it. Checkmate. The aftermath. Hannah filed for divorce with full custody. The lawyer said Greg wouldn't even fight it. Probably couldn't afford to. I signed the papers Leah had tried to file weeks earlier, after rewriting every clause. She got nothing but her car, some furniture, and the clothes she left with. She didn't argue, didn't even speak, just signed her name, hands shaking, eyes hollow. She looked up at me once, maybe looking for mercy. I gave her silence. The same silence I heard when I opened that bedroom door. They say revenge feels hollow in the end. That after the fire burns out, all that's left is ash and regret. But those people never saw the things I saw. Never stood in the doorway of their own life and watched it collapse like a house of cards built on lies. No, after the fire, you don't feel hollow. You feel free. The legal part was over. Papers signed. Accounts closed. Names removed. But freedom doesn't come all at once. Trickles in slow and uncertain. I moved into a 2-bedroom condo near the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Clean lines, white walls, lots of windows. Silence, finally. It was strange at first. No footsteps upstairs. No perfume in the bathroom. No shared calendars or passive-aggressive sticky notes. Just me. My thoughts. My breathing. And peace. God. I'd forgotten what peace felt like. Hannah's new life. She and the kids moved in with our parents temporarily while the house was put up for sale. Greg didn't fight for it. Didn't even show up for the mediation. Just signed what his lawyer told him to and vanished into whatever motel he was still living in. Hannah didn't cry much anymore. But she didn't laugh yet either. She was rebuilding. Not from scratch, but from somewhere real. And I respected the hell out of her for it. One night, after the kids were asleep, we sat in her old backyard with 2 mugs of tea and a blanket between us. I asked her how she felt now that it was over. She looked up at the stars and said, "I don't feel like I won anything, but I feel like I got myself back." And really, that was everything. Ghost. Leah texted me one last time. No apology this time. No manipulation. Leah, Monday, 2:12 a.m. I know you hate me. I don't blame you. I just wanted to say I'm leaving town. Starting over. Don't worry, you won't hear from me again. She kept her word. I saw her once, about a month later, by accident. I was at a gas station just outside the city. She was getting into a dented silver Toyota, hair pulled into a messy knot, wearing a jacket that looked 2 sizes too big. Our eyes met through the windshield. She hesitated, then drove off. I didn't move, didn't feel anything either. Not anger, not longing, just closure. Healing isn't linear. I thought I'd feel better instantly, like winning a war meant automatic peace. But healing doesn't work that way. Some mornings, I woke up and still reached for her side of the bed. Some nights, I caught myself listening for the click of her heels at the door. And sometimes, in the middle of grocery shopping or folding laundry, a wave of sadness hit me so hard I had to sit down. Not because I wanted her back, because the version of my life I thought I had was dead. But grief is just love with nowhere to go. So I let it pass. Like weather. Hannah's turning point. One Sunday afternoon, Hannah and I took the kids to the zoo. It was something Greg used to always promise to do and never did. So we did it together. I watched her point at the elephants with her daughter clinging to her hand and her son laughing beside her. For the first time since everything went to hell, she looked light. Afterward, as we were walking back to the car, she said, "Do you ever think we became the people we were supposed to be because of what they did?" I thought about it for a long moment, then said, "No, I think we always were those people. We just forgot." She smiled, and I think she finally forgave herself for loving a man who didn't deserve her. Greg's final move. A letter arrived at my condo 2 weeks later. No return address, just a crumpled envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Greg. Messy, barely legible, a coffee stain on the edge. "Ethan, I lost everything. I know you think I deserve it. Maybe I do. But I still blame her. She ruined us both. And she'll ruin someone else. You'll see. I don't want forgiveness. I just want to be forgotten. Don't worry, you won't hear from me again." There was a check inside too. Post-dated. $10,000. I never cashed it. Not out of morality. Out of disinterest. Greg was already bankrupt. Financially, emotionally, morally. I didn't need his money. I already had everything he didn't. Self-respect, family, and peace. Finding myself again. I started painting again. It had been years. Leah always said it was a waste of time. Something I did in college that didn't pay the bills. So I stopped. But now, I filled my spare room with canvases, brushes, and the smell of turpentine. And I just let myself create. Not to sell. Not for praise. Just to remember who I was before love turned into obligation. I even enrolled in a local art class. One night after class, a woman named Claire asked if I wanted to grab coffee. She had a dimple when she smiled and paint on her knuckles. I said yes. Not because I was ready, but because I wasn't afraid anymore. The mirror. On the 100th day after the betrayal, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Same face, same eyes, but I didn't recognize the man looking back. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't broken. He was awake. He knew what love wasn't, and that meant he'd recognize the real thing when it came. You can clean up after a fire, rebuild walls, repaint ceilings, lay new flooring. But smoke lingers in the foundation. It gets in your lungs, your clothes, your memories. Just because the house is standing again doesn't mean the past is done with you. And some truths don't burn. They wait until they're ready to be seen. I was doing better. Really. For the first time in what felt like years, I was waking up without tension behind my eyes. The nightmares had mostly stopped. My phone didn't buzz with Leah's texts anymore. Greg had vanished like a stain washed out of fabric. And life, whatever this new version of it was, felt clean. Claire and I had gone out 3 times. Nothing serious. She asked about Leah once, and I told her enough to be honest, but not so much that it dragged us into the past. You seem like someone who rebuilt from rubble, she said after our 3rd date. I did, I replied, and I meant it. But what I didn't realize yet was that not all the rubble had been cleared. A strange call. It happened on a Wednesday, late afternoon. I just finished a painting and was thinking about dinner when my phone rang from an unknown number. Hello. The voice on the other end was female. Sharp, but unsure. Is this Ethan Hart? Yes. Who is this? My name's Victoria. I used to work with Greg. Greg Walker. I stiffened. That name hadn't been spoken out loud in weeks. What do you want? She hesitated. Look, I don't want trouble, but I think you deserve to know something. I didn't speak. I just waited. She continued. Before he got fired, Greg told me something. Something about your sister, Hannah. Now my stomach tightened. I don't know if it's true. Maybe he was lying. But he said it more than once. That the affair started with her. I froze. With Hannah? Not like that. I mean, he said she started it. That she made the first move. That it was revenge for something between you two. Said she hated you more than she hated him. Silence. I didn't believe it. Couldn't. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw what it did to him. How it broke him. And you look like someone who's been through enough. Then she hung up. The doubt. I stared at the phone for a long time. Long after the call ended. Long after the screen went black. No way. No damn way. Hannah? She was the one person who stood by me. Who fought beside me. Who cried with me when the world fell apart. She wouldn't. She couldn't. But a seed had been planted. And once it's there, it starts to grow, whether you water it or not. The past re-examined. That night, I sat on the balcony of my condo, replaying everything. Greg's laugh, Leah's moans, Hannah's first reaction, calm, almost too calm. Her immediate call for revenge, her precision, her readiness. Was it fury or guilt? I poured a glass of bourbon and opened the folder I'd buried deep in my closet. All the evidence we collected. Emails, texts, timeline notes. I found something I hadn't paid attention to before. A message from Leah to Greg, dated almost 4 months before I caught them. She said you'd fold, but I didn't think it would happen this fast. Guess I owe her $50. She said you'd fold. I owe her $50. My throat dried. Was she, Hannah? Had she known then? Been involved? Was all of this built on a lie? The confrontation. I went to Hannah's house the next morning. The kids were at school. She was in the kitchen, wiping down the counter like always. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, what's up?" I didn't answer, just placed the printout of Leah's message on the counter. She looked at it. Her smile faded. Silence stretched between us. Then she sat down. "I wondered when you'd find that," she said quietly. My chest went tight. "So it's true." She didn't nod. Didn't deny it either. "I didn't sleep with him first. Not like that. But I knew. I knew they were texting. Flirting. I didn't stop it." "Why?" She took a deep breath. "Because I was angry. At you. At them. At everything. You remember 2 years ago when Dad was in the hospital and you didn't come? I had a business trip. You chose a business trip," she snapped. "And I had to sit there with Mom, holding Dad's hand while he coded. While Greg told me you never show up for people who need you. And I believed him. I was so tired of always being second in our family. You were the golden one." I shook my head. "That's what this was about? That's why you let this happen?" She blinked, eyes wet. "No. Started there. But once I saw them together, once I saw how they used us, I changed. I wanted them to pay. I still do. But I'm not proud of what I did." I felt like the floor shifted under me. "You could have told me. I was afraid you'd hate me." I walked out without another word. Truth hurts. Even from allies. I sat in my car for nearly an hour. What hurt wasn't just the betrayal. It was the fact that the one person I trusted above all else had weaponized her pain, had used my blind spot, and suddenly, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Was I still the victim? Or just another player in a long, dark game? Claire's question. That night, Claire and I met for coffee. I must have looked off, because she asked gently, "Did something happen?" And for the first time in weeks, I told her everything. Not just about Leah, or Greg, or the revenge, but the part one never said out loud. That I liked hurting them. That maybe I went too far. That maybe Hannah did too. She didn't flinch. Instead, she reached across the table, took my hand, and said, "Maybe you needed to break something to understand what it takes to rebuild." Then she added, "But just because you were in the fire doesn't mean you have to keep burning." Forgiveness? I haven't forgiven Hannah. Not yet. But I understand her now. We're all broken differently. We all carry grief like a backpack of stones we can't put down until we choose to. She carried hers longer than I knew. And maybe, just maybe, I helped her finally put it down. We thought the past was behind us. That we'd buried the pain under enough silence. Poured enough salt in the wound to keep it from festering. But ghosts don't die just because you stop believing in them. They wait. And sometimes they write letters. I hadn't spoken to Hannah in over a week. Not since the truth came out, that she'd known about Greg and Leah long before I had. That she'd played a quiet part in the chaos that shattered all 4 of our lives. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Worn down by the weight of everything we'd lost and everything we'd done. And then came the envelope. The letter. It was a manila envelope, hand-delivered to Hannah's doorstep. No postage. No return address. No handwriting. Inside, a thick bundle of printed emails, texts, and one letter. A real handwritten one. From Greg. She called me the moment she opened it. "Ethan," she said, voice trembling. "You need to come see this." When I got there, she handed me the letter without saying a word. I sat down. Read it slowly. "Hannah, I thought about burning this. About pretending none of it mattered. But if there's one thing you deserve, it's the truth, because for all our lies, we were honest in one way. We both hated what we had become. I never loved Leah. Not really. She was a game. A fantasy I kept feeding because it made me feel powerful again. I blamed you for my failures, and I let her stroke the ego I lost with every paycheck I couldn't cover. But she didn't ruin me. I ruined myself. You and I, we were never good. But there were moments, fleeting ones, when I thought maybe, just maybe, we could be more than what we settled for. I don't expect forgiveness. But you should know Leah's still lying. Even now. And she wasn't just sleeping with me. She had someone else. Someone closer to you than you think. Ask Ethan about the messages he never read. Goodbye. Greg. I felt my chest go cold. Then hot. Someone else? What the hell was he talking about? Buried messages. Jason. He was the only one with full data access to both Leah and Greg's digital history. I called him that night. Hey, I said. I need you to go back into Leah's messages. Not just with Greg. Everyone. Filter for anything she might have deleted, hidden. Something personal. Something intimate. Jason didn't ask questions. He never did. Give me 24 hours. The next day, I got an encrypted file. Inside were dozens of messages I'd never seen. Deleted chats Leah had hidden from even her browser history. Some were flirty. Others were graphic. But the worst ones were with Jake, my cousin. Jake had been like a brother to me growing up. Always around. Always close. He helped me move when Leah and I bought our first house. Came to every birthday, every holiday. Took my side in every family argument. And he'd been sleeping with my wife too. Months before Greg. Some of the messages were short. Last night was risky. But God, I can't stop thinking about you. You really think he has any idea? He's so naive it's almost cute. Others were longer. Crueler. Leah venting about me. About boring nights and cold kisses. Jake telling her she deserved better. Jake saying, "You're not meant to be just someone's wife." I saw red, then black. Betrayal inside betrayal. I confronted him the next day. I didn't call. I didn't warn him. I drove straight to his apartment and knocked until he answered. He opened the door with a smile. "Hey man, what's up?" I didn't speak. I just held up my phone with the messages open. His face dropped. Panic. Guilt. Then a sorry excuse for a lie. "That's old. That was before you two even got married." "No," I said flatly. "These are dated 4 years into our marriage. After Greece. After the miscarriage. You were with her then." His mouth opened, but I didn't give him the chance to speak again. I walked away. Hannah's reckoning. When I told Hannah, she sat down slowly, like her legs gave out. She stared ahead at nothing. Whispered, "How deep does this hole go?" "I don't know," I said honestly, but it felt like we'd only scratched the surface. Claire's distance. I tried to explain it to Claire. Told her about Jake. About the new betrayal. She listened carefully. Gave me space. But I could see it in her eyes. The doubt. The fear. "How do you trust anyone again?" she asked one night over dinner. After all this, I didn't have an answer. And that was the beginning of the end for us. Not because she didn't care, but because I wasn't whole. Not yet. Letters are never just letters. In a way, Greg got the last word. Not through power. Not through manipulation. But through truth. Truth I hadn't wanted to see. Truth that gutted me a second time. But it also forced a realization. I hadn't healed. I'd simply paused the bleeding. Now I needed to clean the wound for real. Cutting the rope. I blocked Jake. Deleted his number. Told my family the truth. My parents were stunned. My uncle, Jake's father, didn't believe me until I showed him the proof. He hasn't spoken to Jake since. As for Leah, I didn't confront her. Didn't need to. She was already in exile. Already living with the consequences of her choices. Now she could live with this too. Forgiveness begins with you. I visited Hannah the following week. Sat on her porch again like we did when we were kids. "I forgive you," I said. Her eyes watered. "Why?" "Because I need to. Not for you. For me. And maybe, just maybe, for both of us." Some stories don't end with a bang. They end with a whisper. A moment. A glance in the rearview mirror where you see the person you used to be, watching as you drive away. The worst is over. But peace? Real peace? It only comes when the ghosts are no longer chasing you, because you've finally turned around and faced them. Life was moving on. Hannah had enrolled her kids in a new school and started seeing a therapist. She was softening again, slowly, rediscovering who she was before Greg, before resentment, before war. As for me, I had stepped away from Claire. Not because I didn't like her. I did. But I wasn't ready to let someone new into a house still haunted by the last woman who lived there. That wouldn't have been fair to either of us. Instead, I focused on rebuilding the life I had once ignored. My art, my friendships, even my parents. I started teaching a weekend class at the local art center. Teenagers, mostly. Kids with too many emotions and not enough ways to say them. I understood that better than I cared to admit. There were still shadows, of course, but they were getting easier to live with. Until the final ghost came knocking. The cafe. It was a Thursday afternoon. Rain tapping gently on the window panes of a quiet downtown cafe. I was sketching in my notebook, half listening to the low hum of conversation around me. Then the door opened, and in she walked. Leah. Hair shorter, face thinner, dressed in dark jeans and a long coat. No makeup, just raw. She spotted me immediately and froze. I looked at her. She looked at me, and somehow I nodded. She took it as permission and walked over. "Can I sit?" she asked softly. I hesitated for a moment, then gestured to the empty chair across from me. The conversation. We sat in silence at first, the kind of silence loaded with 100 things unsaid. Then she spoke. "I didn't expect to see you here. I live 10 minutes away." She nodded, glancing at my sketchbook. Still drawing. Still breathing. She looked down. Her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her sleeve. "Greg's dead," she said suddenly. I blinked. "What?" "Overdose. 2 weeks ago. Hotel room in Buffalo. Alone. Heroin, apparently, mixed with something stronger." I didn't feel what I thought I would. No shock. No joy. No sadness. Just an ending. "His parents are blaming me?" she added, eyes welling up. "Not that I blame them." I said nothing. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry, Ethan. Not the performance kind. Not the manipulative kind. Just a small, quiet truth." "I know," I said. She swallowed hard. "I wasn't happy, even before you found out. And instead of facing it, I blew it all up. You didn't deserve what I did." "No, I didn't." We both knew there was no fixing anything. No possibility of us in any version of the future. But closure isn't always about resolution. Sometimes it's just two people acknowledging the ruins. The apology that mattered. "I found the letter," she said. "The one Greg wrote to Hannah." I nodded. "He left a trail." "He always did." Then she looked at me, and for the first time since everything fell apart, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Shame. Not sadness. Not fear. Not regret for being caught. Shame. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be better than I was," she said. "Not for you. Not even for me. But because I have to believe I can be something different." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some apologies don't require forgiveness. They just need to be heard. Walking away, she stood up after a minute. "I won't contact you again," she said. "I know you're free of me. I just needed to say it." She paused, then added, "You were a good man. I just didn't know how to accept that kind of love." She left the cafe without another word. I watched her walk out into the rain and disappear into a crowd of umbrellas. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. It was over. Really over. Not because she said sorry, but because I didn't need her to anymore. Hannah's piece. When I told Hannah what happened, she nodded slowly. "I wondered how it would end for him." "Did you ever love him?" I asked. "I loved who I thought he was," she said. "But the real Greg? He was already gone before the affair." We stood by her garden, where new flowers had just started to bloom. "What about you?" she asked. "Are you going to let someone love you again?" "I think I might," I said. "Eventually. On different terms this time." Hannah smiled. "Good." Claire again. I ran into Claire a week later at the art center. She was signing her niece up for a class. She smiled. "So did I." "No hard feelings?" she asked. "None at all." She hesitated. "So, coffee sometime?" This time I was the one to ask. "How about dinner instead? If I could go back to that Thursday afternoon." The moment I opened the bedroom door and saw what broke me, I wouldn't stop it. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't run. I would simply walk up to myself, place a hand on my shoulder, and whisper, "You're not dying. You're just being born." Because some endings are mercy in disguise. 6 months had passed since the fire. That's what I called it now. The fire, the betrayal, the unraveling, the revenge. It wasn't just destruction. It was purification. It burned away the lies, the roles, the illusions. And what was left? Something real. Hannah rebuilds. Hannah had finally moved into her own place. A modest 2-story with a garden and a creaky porch swing that the kids loved. Greg was gone. A gravestone now. The final punctuation on a life that never learned how to say sorry with action. She visited the grave once. Alone. When I asked her how it felt, she said, "Like closing a book I never wanted to open." And that was all she needed to say. Her kids were doing better. They laughed again. Ate without tension. Slept through the night. Scars were still there, of course. But scars don't hurt once they've healed. They just remind you that you survived. Claire and me. It wasn't a fairy tale. No slow-motion kisses in the rain. No orchestral swells or perfect dialogue. Just quiet dinners. Long walks. Laughter that didn't come from obligation. She never asked me to explain what I'd been through. She just made space for me to exist. And in that space something grew. She came with her own scars, her own past. But somehow, 2 broken people didn't break each other. We just fit. The house. I sold the old house. The one Leah and I had shared. I went back once, alone, before I handed over the keys. Walked through each room. Touched the walls. Not with nostalgia. With closure. In our bedroom, I stood in the exact spot where I had first seen them. Then I took a deep breath. And said, "Goodbye." Not to Leah. To the man I used to be. To the version of me that stayed too long. That forgave too quickly. That trusted too blindly. I left him there. Where he belonged. The letter I never sent. Back home. I sat down at my desk, pulled out a sheet of paper, and wrote a letter. Not for Leah. Not for Greg. Not even for Hannah. For me. Dear Ethan, you're going to survive this. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. You feel like your soul's been carved out and replaced with acid. You feel humiliated. Rejected. Like love was a lie and maybe you were the punchline the whole time. But listen to me. Really listen. This is not your end. It's your awakening. Yes, they lied. Yes, they broke something sacred. But what you're about to find is stronger than anything they ever gave you, yourself. You will become sharper, softer, wiser, kinder. Not to them, to you. You'll learn that trust is not weakness. That loyalty is not stupidity. That loving deeply doesn't make you blind. It makes you brave. And one day you'll look in the mirror and love the man staring back. He'll have been through hell, but he'll be whole. And no one will ever take that from him again. I folded the letter and placed it in a small wooden box on my shelf. Not to read again. Just to know it was there. The final chapter. There was no dramatic finale. No courtroom showdowns or climactic arguments in the rain. Just mornings that didn't hurt anymore. Nights that felt safe again. And people who chose each other honestly. Leah never reached out again. Jake moved to another state. Some endings are best left silent. But in the space they left behind, life happened. Real life. And it was beautiful. Epilogue. A year to the day after it all began. I stood in front of my canvas in a sunlit studio. Claire asleep on the couch. The smell of coffee drifting through the room. I picked up a brush. And painted a door. Half open. Light spilling through. Because that's what this story really was. Not about betrayal. Not about revenge. But about walking through that door. Even when you're scared. Even when it hurts. Because what's waiting on the other side is you.